Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. More to our colleagues and then to the learners at large in all the radio community station. I am Mekabi, the subject advisor for accounting from Moteo District Office. Today, I will just be giving you the tips on paper 1 that is going to be written. We are really doing countdown. That is the day after tomorrow, the 16th, of which is Wednesday. So the time is very close. I know you have revised everything. So I'm just giving you the tips as to what is it that you need to know and what is it that you don't have to do. We can get started. My focus on this presentation is going to be the structure of the paper. I know you know the structure of the paper because you met the structure in trial exam while you were writing your paper 1. But I just want to emphasize on the structure. It's very important for you to know the structure based on the exam guideline. And a few tips on how to answer the questions that we are going to go through, that I'm going to show you when we are going through the structure of the paper. And then the errors and omissions, what to avoid. Basically, this comes from the diagnostic report or from the learners that we have come across throughout the year, that the mistakes the learners are doing. So we are advising you not to do the same mistakes so that you can literally pass your paper. Coming to the first part of which is the structure. The question paper counts or consists of 150 marks, and it is going to be written for 2 hours. But there is no specific order in terms of the layout of the paper and the topic to be assessed. Remember, because you have exam guidelines and your teachers have discussed the exam guidelines with you, in the exam guidelines, the 20% of the content from the previous grade can be assessed. So don't be surprised when you see some other things that comes from grade 11. So on the paper, we are allowed to ask 20%, and the 80% should be on the current grade, which is the grade 12. Bearing in mind, we have the topics that we say they are cut across topics, that you do them from grade 10, grade 11, and grade 12. So there is a possibility of 3 to 4 questions in that question paper of yours, which is 150 marks. And then each mark per question can range from 15 marks to 60 marks. It depends. And then let's say, for example, on the structure of the paper, we can say the income statement or the statement of comprehensive income or of the financial statement can be 50 to 60 marks. Then each question could indicate, each question from in paper 1, we can have notes of financial statements, cash flow statement, and financial indicators, which can range 40 to 45 marks. Maybe that can be your second question. Then let's say for the third question, you can have your analysis and interpretation of financial information. It can also run to 30 to 35 marks. Corporate governance, audit report, and process. It can range from 10 to 25. Fixed assets, inventory, ethics, and internal control can be integrated in that topic. Like I said, in each question could include integration of topics. When you have your question paper, when you check page 2 of it, you will check that the question paper will clearly show you the topics that have been assessed and the total marks per topic. So mark will be allocated on top of each question so that you can know if you are talking about your fixed asset that is asked, it worth this much. Very importantly, use the time wisely. It's very important to use your time effectively so that you can finish everything that must be done. And then when you check your question paper again, each and every question has what we call appetizers. So let's say, for example, you'd find when in the question of income statement, you'd find that the first question will be matching the column or filling in, the answers will be there. So we are expecting each and every learner to complete that part because it's 4 mahala marks that we can say, because it's the basic things that you know. Some of them is the concepts that you learn from grade 10, some in grade 11, some you have just seen them in grade 12. But each and every question has got the appetizers, which we call them, the concepts. Then coming to the second issue is how to answer the questions. So on how to answer the questions, I'm going to take question by question. And I'm going to start with the question of statement of comprehensive income. On the statement of comprehensive income, of which we used to call it income statement, focus on, very importantly, know the format of the income statement. You need to memorize the skeleton or the structure of the income statement. I'm telling you, if you do not know how does the income statement look like, you will never get it right. If you, maybe by default or whatever, you have forgotten to check the structure of the income statement, practice it tonight, and then tomorrow morning you will get it. You can even make a song out of it or while you are practicing it. Then there can be small income statement. It can be asked in two ways. Income statement can be in a larger form where you have to complete the whole income statement, or you can be asked a mini income statement or a small income statement. On the mini income statement, it is where you'll be asked to calculate the correct net profit. And on that one, remember the signs are very important. But I'm saying it is not likely to be asked again in 2022 because the correct net profit was asked in 2021 at the end of the year. So we are just hoping that we'll have the full income statement. When we have a full income statement, these are the things to consider. Always write the figures of a nominal account section from the pre-adjustment trial balance in the income statement. When you get your answer sheet, check your pre-adjustment trial balance and take the figures as they are to the income statement. And then if the adjustment says you must add, that is when you'll include the sign. So if the figure must increase in the income statement, that is what I mean, you'll say plus. But if in a case where the figure must decrease, it will be minus. So after checking everything that comes from your pre-adjustment trial balance and recording and transferring it into the income statement, then you go to your adjustment, then the adjustment will determine either you add or you subtract based on the adjustment that will be given. Again, on the income statement, while you are doing that, remember, always show your calculations to NPAT marks. I've highlighted it with yellow because it is very important for you to show the calculations. Sometimes you would have borrowed your the calculator that you have been practicing with throughout, maybe had a problem of a battery that morning, which is on a Wednesday morning. Then you borrow somebody else's calculator. Then you do not know how to work on it, especially while you are looking or you are checking your time. It's very important to write everything in bracket, even if your final answer can be wrong, at least as to how you got to your final answer. We will see it in a bracket. And when we mark, we normally check what is in the bracket to ensure that the learner wanted to calculate a certain thing with this manner, but unfortunately the calculator maybe was the problem. Or maybe while you were adding, or while you were transferring your amount from the calculator to the answer sheet, you have transferred it wrongly. So you will get marks because you would have recorded things in the bracket. Remember to deduct debtors allowance from the sales figure. It is also very important. Your sales less your debtors allowance. They reduce the sales. If you sell on cash or on credit with an adjustment, the amount of the sales must be added on the sales. If the sales increase, cost of sales must also increase. It is very important because sales go hand in hand with the cost of sales. You cannot sell something whereas you did not incur any cost to buy that particular item. So very importantly, no receivables, payables, received in advance and prepaid. Very important because they will help you to have the correct income statement. All right, still again on the income statement, if there are returns by a debtor with an adjustment, then minus the sales, they reduce the sales. If sales minus, cost of sales also minus. For example, you have sold a beautiful plasma to a customer and the customer returns that plasma. You are not the manufacturer. Therefore, you would have to take that plasma back to the manufacturer. So in that case, if you said your sales was amounting to 200,000 and this particular customer returned something for 500, then you are going to say 200,000 2,000 minus the 500, that is a return. Therefore, your sales will still be 1,500. In the same manner, you will have to calculate the cost of sales for that. Then you also minus or subtract it from your cost of sales. Take note of a markup percentage given and adjust the cost of sales accordingly. It's very important to remember how to calculate the markup percentage. And then you work it out with your sales. Again, while we are still on the income statement, remember that sales stroke returns at the end of the year changes the figure of the closing stock, then determines if the stock is at a deficit, is a stock deficit at the end or what. So it is very important to also check the figure of your closing stock and check it on the adjustment and check if you have any adjustment that talks to the returns of any goods. Then coming to the depreciation, very important. Depreciation is also a cut across topic. You have to know it. It can come in a form of a note. You must be able to calculate the depreciation. While we are on that depreciation, we have got two methods of depreciation. Is a cost price and a diminishing. Diminishing can sometimes be called the carrying value. Then remember how to calculate the depreciation using a cost method price. You take your cost price, you multiply by the percentage given. If they say the vehicle was 200,000 and then it was depreciated at 20%, you just go straight and say 200,000 multiplied by 20 divided by 100, then it will give you the depreciation. Especially if the vehicle was bought at the beginning of the year and then you do not have to calculate it with the months that are included and so forth. But months and the time frames are important while you're doing your depreciation. Then diminishing or carrying value, we are saying you take the cost price, you minus the accumulated depreciation, then you can only multiply by the percentage given. On this one, the time frame is also very important. Check when was it bought and when was it bought and then when is the financial year ending. Still on the income statement, remember the 1 rand rule. When calculating depreciation on a cost price, depreciation cannot be more than the book value. Subtract 1 rand from the book value and that is your depreciation. Very importantly, you cannot say, let's say for example, we had an activity that we are doing over the weekend and then we calculated the carrying value of that activity was 38,000. Let's say the carrying value of an equipment, of a vehicle is 38,000. But when you calculate the depreciation, you got the depreciation as 57,000. So in that case, it basically means you are not going to record the 57,000. You are going to record the 37,999 because your carrying value was 38,000. You cannot record the 57,000. I repeat, you cannot record the 57,000 that you have got or that you have attained because the carrying value of that particular item from the beginning of the year was only 38,000. I've made another example here. I said if the carrying value is 1,000 and you calculate depreciation at 15,000, you can only write 999,000 because the carrying value must be at least 1 rand. So from the 100,000 from the 1,000, which is the carrying value, you subtract 1, then you will have 999. Remember that interest income and interest expense appear on the bottom of on the bottom part of the income statement. Very important to know the structure, know the income statement from up until the end. And then another one of taxation, calculation of missing figures. Divide by what you have and times that you want. For example, if your tax is 30%, amount to 285, you need the profit tax. Then 285 divided by 30 multiplied by 70, which is basically 100 minus the 30 that was given. Then it can give you 665. Working from bottom to top, know the format, and apply opposite signs when going on. Very important on the income statement. You must know all those things. Then come into the second part of which we can say is the second question, where we are going to talk about the statement of financial position, which used to be called the balance sheet. On the balance sheet, you need to know your formats, the structure, the skeleton. It's very important. In accounting, I want to tell you, if you know the structure, the principle, how does it look like, and understand the meaning behind everything, it is easy for you to pass accounting. So in the balance sheet, you need to know the format, the structure, and the skeleton of the balance sheet. Always write the figures of the balance sheet account section on the pre-adjustment trial balance in the balance sheet. Remember, you'd have your pre-adjustment trial balance. Then you take those figures as they are, you record them in your balance sheet. And there is marks in most cases when you take them from the pre-adjustment trial balance to the balance sheet. And then always show your calculations in the brackets to end part marks. After you have taken that figure as it is from the pre-adjustment trial balance to the balance sheet, you would have opened a bracket and you would have shown your figures in it, and then you'll have your final mark. Very important. Show your calculations. Ratios are important when doing a balance sheet or when a balance sheet is assessed, because you can use the ratios to look for the unknown figures that you might come across. Then coming to the balance sheet again, the ratios. If your liquidity ratio is 2:1, the figure of the current liabilities were 100,000. Then the missing figure of the current asset must be 100,000 multiplied by 2, which is 200,000. Know the formula of current ratio and know when to use it and how to use it. Remember, it has your asset and your liabilities. Asset test ratio can be used to calculate the stock figures in the balance sheet. Also very important. Debt equity ratio can be used to calculate either the shareholders' equity or the loan figure. Total capital employed means shareholders' equity plus the loans. Now moving to the notes of the balance sheet. Know the format of the following notes. All the notes you need to know the format, but most importantly, these 3 notes are very important, because if you check the trend of the previous question paper, you will not come across any question paper where you do not have any of the 3 notes. The first note is ordinary share capital. You have to know the structure, how does it look like, and you have to be able to do what? To calculate the shares that are needed there. Retained income, you need to know the structure. How does retained income look like? And then you'll be able to do what? To calculate. Because in some instances, you'd find that they have given you just a template which has got only opening balance of the retained income. So you need to know what comes afterwards so that you can be able to take whatever information that you need from the question paper to filter the retained note income. Then lastly, note for fixed asset. It is very important. Fixed asset note, you would have started it from the previous grade, so you'd have known it. Remember, fixed asset note has got 3 sections. You have got the first part where you're going to talk about your carrying value, your cost, accumulated depreciation, carrying value. Then in the middle, I normally say the middle is where we are focusing on the movements of an asset during the year. When you're talking about movement, you're talking about movement going out, which is disposing, movement coming in, which is buying a new asset, and then the depreciation at the end. So those 3 will cause the movement during the year. Then the last part of a fixed asset note, remember also, it has got 3 things, which is cost, accumulated depreciation, and carrying value. So those 3 notes are very important. Take cognizance of them, know their structure, so that you can be able for you to calculate it easily. Remember again, when you buy back shares, the average price appears on ordinary share capital note, and the difference must appear in the retained income note. So while you are calculating it, make sure that you can check the difference from the ordinary share capital and then the retained income, so that when you add them together, they give you that particular amount. Then remember to take the total of these notes to the balance sheet. Very important. After calculating your ordinary share capital, take the note as it is and put it in the balance sheet. I was still telling some learners that even if you have calculated your ordinary share capital wrongly, let's say, for example, the total amount of ordinary share capital was supposed to be 2 million, and then you did not get 2 million, you got 1,300,000. Then you take your 1,300,000 to the balance sheet as you have obtained it. You are going to get a mark in the balance sheet for knowing that you had to transfer the total of ordinary share capital to the balance sheet as it is. In the same way, your retained income, let's say it was supposed to be 720,000, but you have got 610,000. Then by transferring the 610,000 to the balance sheet as it is, you have another mark. So in this case, you already have 2 marks in the balance sheet for just transferring. Remember to take the total of these notes to the balance sheet. Like I've said, they always ask the note for fixed asset or to calculate a new purchases on a fixed asset. Yes, while we are still on the fixed asset, they can ask you to calculate the depreciation on a new asset, or the asset that has been there forever, or the asset that was bought during the year. Very importantly, asset disposal at carrying value. You have to know how to calculate it. Remember, carrying value equals to cost price minus accumulated depreciation. Then we can be done maybe with our second question. Then we can move to third question. Remember, before we move to third question, on the balance sheet, they can ask you just the part of balance sheet which can be equity part of it. They can ask you the full balance sheet, or they can ask the part of it. So moving to the next one, cash flow statement. On the cash flow statement, very importantly again, you need to know the format, the structure, or the skeleton of a cash flow statement. How does it look like? So inflow, receive money, there is no bracket. Outflow, you pay money, there must be a bracket. An example that I like saying inflow, we all like money. When money comes in, we don't do anything. But immediately it's outflow. When the money goes out, you try to protect it. By protecting, you try to do brackets. So remember, when money goes out, you put bracket in your cash flow statement. Very importantly. It can be asked as a full cash flow or part of cash flow as a missing figure. And while you are doing your cash flow, remember, if, for example, your loan was this much and then it was 7,000, it means then this year, then the next year, the loan is 5,000. It means you have paid the loan, you have reduced the loan. So is the money coming in? Is the money coming out? So check those aspects. And then coming again onto the cash flow, missing figures can be asked in a way that you have to complete the missing figures. Missing figures can be, you can have to calculate your dividends paid. You can be asked to calculate your income tax paid. Remember, when you calculate your income tax paid and your dividends paid, and you can also be asked to calculate the purchases or a disposal figure of a fixed asset, a loan, or a purchases or a repurchases of some shares. So you need to know, when are we talking about financing activities, when are we talking about investing activities, or the last part where, remember, they always ask the change of cash and cash equivalent, the last 3 lines of the cash flow. You also need to know them thoroughly. And then analysis and interpretation on the ratios. Very important. You'll be given a formula sheet. But when you are given the formula sheet, it does not necessarily mean that you will have the marks automatically, or you will know the formulas, the ratios automatically when you don't know how to apply them. You have to know how to apply them. Ratios can often be asked or can often be used. Current ratio divided by acid test ratio, it must be X is 2 to 1. Then debt equity ratio, it must be X is 2, 1. We have Roche or Rodka. The net asset value per share can also be there. And this can also help you to complete your income statement. Then coming still on the interpretation, you can be asked to comment on the liquidity ratios, which is 6 ratios in liquidity, which I know you know them and you have went through them. Current ratio, divide by asset test ratio, or not divide, current ratio or asset test ratio, or debtors collection, or creditors payment, or the stock. Still on the interpretation, comment on gearing, there is 2 ratios. Debt equity ratio and ROCE. Those are the 2 ratios that you need to use when you comment on your gearing. You can compare it with the interest on loan before you decide to pay back the loan. Remember, your ROCE is the return on total capital employed. And then the buyback of shares. If the prices were fair, compare it with the net asset value and the market price of shares. Then coming to the auditing part of it, types of audit. We have got 3 types of audit. We have got unqualified report, we have got qualified report, and we have got disclaimer report. Under qualified report is the report that we say it's fairly presented in all material. So when you check the financial statement, they are fairly presented and correctly presented, and their records complies with all the accounting standards. So that is unqualified report. Then qualified report, its financial statements are fairly and corrected, presented, except for certain records. It means everything is not correct. But with unqualified, everything is correct. There is exception. There are some things, maybe there can be a missing document or a missing slip or a missing something. So then you are saying your report is qualified. Then the disclaimer, it's when an auditor cannot express an opinion. There are so many reasons why the auditor cannot express an opinion. There can be insufficient or incorrect information given or outstanding. Or there can be a bad report, meaning that there is a mismanagement of funds, or there can be a possibility of a fraud or irregularities. The reason I'm explaining these 3 is because you need to know them for you to be able to comment on the information that can be given. For example, they can just quote a company, or they quote anything from a magazine that talks about a company that is not able to do certain things because of what and what and what. So if you do not know what kind of a report, if they say the auditor audited the financial statement of this company, but they could not express their opinion, what kind of report is that? You need to be able to know is a disclaimer. So you need to be able, is it good for a business? You need to be able to know if it is good for a business or not good for the business. And why are you saying it is not good for the business? Because when we mark, we want to check the understanding of a learner to explain the concept or these 3 types of audit reports. Then coming to the ethics and corporate governance. Here they can be integrated across all topics. Problem-solving scenarios are there. I've made an example of where you have to comment or to solve a problem. Like, for example, tender was not advertised, but there was somebody who was paid and the business was done. Therefore, did that company follow the correct things? Then you are trying to solve the problem while you are doing that. Unethical business practices, corporate and social responsibilities. Then, very importantly, when you are checking your King Code, ethics and corporate governance, we call it this substantive. You need to understand this very well. Reason being, you need to understand what does S stands for. S stands for social responsibilities. Is the company contributing to the social responsibilities? Is the company employing the community around? Is the company not harming the community around? Let's say, for example, you are staying in an area where there are mining or where there is factories. Like, for example, in Botshabelo, there are factories. So if the material that they use in that factory, after they have used it, they just dispose it, or the liquid that they have used to wash the material that they have used, they just dispose it and it becomes dangerous to the community. It means that that company is not having social responsibility. It's not taking social responsibility because it's not taking care of the community, and it's not contributing to the community around itself in a good way. And transparency, does the company do things in an open and in a transparency way? If there is a job that must be advertised, or if there is somebody that they are looking, are they advertising in a following good proper channel of HR? Are they advertising in time? Are they doing interviews? Are they doing what is supposed to happen? That is what you are calling about transparency. Then accountability, able to explain your actions and accept the responsibility. Sorry, while I was talking about the running water, I think it will fit much better in the accountability. The company must be accountable, but with social responsibility, the company must hire people around that premises. Then responsible management, showing critical consideration for all aspects where the business is involved. Then, is the company showing that critical consideration? Is it considering other people, the workers? Is it considering the employees? Is it considering the outsiders, people around it? Is it considering the stakeholders, people that they're communicating with, and so forth? Discipline. Business must stick to its principles and ethics. Each and every business must be disciplined. And then independence. Business must operate without influence of others. It cannot be right that because it's somebody who is coming to the business or to do something in that particular business, then the business just lose its independence and then depend on the other person, or they just take whatever the other person is saying. Then fairness, being considerate to your shareholders, giving them what they deserve. This is very important. Shareholders are there to invest in the company, and when they invest in company, they want something in return. So the company cannot forge the financial statements just to say that the business is performing or the business is at risk, whereas it's not at risk. So they need to be fair and give the shareholders what is appropriate to them. Then that is how you can answer all those questions. Now I'm going to move to the last part where I'm going to talk about what is it that you need to avoid. In most cases, you would find that candidates forget to calculate the average price. I've talked about it. It is very important for you to be able to calculate the average price, read the transactions properly, and go to them as they are, and go to them one by one to understand and be able to check if the shares were sold at what price and when were the shares sold. It is also very important. Secondly, candidates do not comment appropriately. Give your own opinion. It is very important to give your own opinion based on your understanding, because we need to know, or we need to see while we read your script that you have really understood whatever that was said. And then most of the learners, they shy away from answering problem-solving questions. You need to answer them according to your understanding. So do not leave space unattended. Do not leave blank spaces. Make sure that you answer everything. Don't be shy to answer anything. Then the other one is misplacement of foreign items in the income statement or the balance sheet. This one is very important. If you know the structure of an income statement and you know the structure of a balance sheet, it is not easy for you to do foreign items. So people or learners that make mistakes of foreign items are the ones that do not know the structure. For example, you'd find that one learner just decided to put the loan in the income statement. You cannot put loan in the income statement because loan must go to the balance sheet. But if you know the structure, you will not lose this mark. So what happens if you have decided to put a loan in the income statement? You are going to lose marks because we mark with an F, which shows it's a foreign item. It must not be in that particular item. Again, on the misplacement of foreign items, I will talk about another school where I was yesterday. When they were doing a retained income note, I could see another learner just, instead of writing final dividends and interim dividends on that note, they didn't write that. Someone wrote interest and somebody was writing interest, and another one wrote something like stock deficit. And then you ask yourself, it means this learner does not understand the structure or the skeleton of a retained income note. And in that case, while you are marked, even if you have maybe, for example, you have got other things right in your retained income, you are going to get minus F. We are going to subtract marks because it is foreign items, and then the marks will be lost. And then poor time management. Very importantly, it is very important for you to manage your time effectively so that you can finish the paper. Some learners do not finish the paper. Like I said, when you open the second page of that paper that you get on Wednesday, it has shown you the topic, it has shown you the marks, it has shown you the time as well. So if you are busy with a certain question and then you get stuck, do not wait onto that question until time ends. Move to the second question and answer it accordingly. In some instances, you'd see that when you find a question that you understand best, you even finish before the time that is given. So use your time effectively. Make sure that you fill everything. Start with appetizers and complete things that you know best. Start with the question that you understand or know best. While you are busy practicing today and tomorrow, there is a question that you are saying on this. There is a topic that you are saying on this topic. Noma kanjani, I'm going to make it. Then if you understand income statement best, start with it and then move to the topics as per your difficulty or per your understanding. And then you'll finish everything in time. Some are unable to work figures from the known to find unknown balancing figures. It's very important. I was saying to another class that I was with yesterday, while we were doing the balance sheet, they had the total equity and liabilities, but they did not have total asset. I said, take it as if you are playing chess. Now you have this total, you can easily take it and transfer it to your total assets, because at the end of the day, we said, while you are doing balance sheet, asset equals to owner's equity plus liabilities. Therefore, you have your equities and liability total, take it on top to your asset, then it is easy. In that case, while you are having there, you can easily calculate your current assets, or your current asset is given, then you will easily calculate the non-current asset. So you are done. Meaning in that case, you will be able to use the figures that you have to get the unknown figures. And able to apply critical thinking skills to provide relevant and suitable solution. In the same way, it is very important to apply and to think out of the box in some other questions, especially on the theory questions, because they would want to test how much knowledge or what do you know, so that you can be able to answer in a suitable question. I think those are the common mistakes that most of the learners are doing. Then, in conclusion, I just want to say, work out as many examination papers as you can. Make sure that you ask your teachers as you can. We have got YouTube. You can go to your YouTube. We have got old IBP lessons that you can use. You can use previous question papers. You can go to a DBW website where you can download the question papers and work through them. Attend all extra classes up to today. Tomorrow, you must work on your own or SPS. And then what is important again, the study groups or helping each other is very important. I was saying to them yesterday that, remember, you cannot be good in all topics. If learner A is good in income statement, learner B will be good in balance sheet, then they need to swap. It's nigga. I teach you on how to tackle or how to tickle the adjustment of an income statement. You teach me on how to address adjustment on the balance sheet. So it is very, very important to do that. And then work with each other, help each other, and your teachers are always there to help you. And then in conclusion, I just want to say, believe in yourself, stay humble, and stay strong, never give up, work very hard and keep smiling, because your smile makes life more beautiful. Thank you very much. We have come to the end of the tips of our accounting paper 1. Thank you, colleagues, for listening. I know some of the learners have taken points, and some of the learners will take points from others, and the teachers will just sum up on everything that we have done. Thank you very much. Okay, before I close, there is a competition here. The question will be posted on the official website. I'm going to give you a question where you are going to calculate the depreciation of a certain aspect. For example, we have got a vehicle that was bought for 360,000 on credit on the 1st September 2020. This transaction has been recorded. They have clearly said that. Then they have given you the adjustment. Accumulated depreciation at the beginning of the financial year was 86,000. Then the depreciation rate was 20% per annum using a diminishing method balance. Then the depreciation of the remaining vehicle was amounting to 52,800 on the 28th February 2021. So the question will be clearly posted on the website, and try to answer that question as simple as you can or as quick as you can, because it comes from the materials that we have just done together. And then if you get it, you will get your T-shirt from MTN and the bucket hat from MTN. I know our learners are listening and they want to participate, and I so wish that it can be obtained from Moteo, from the learners from Moteo. I know the Lijoliputa is listening, TMET is listening, Facility is listening, because the radio community station that I'm addressing this, or the center that I'm in, is in Moteo. I so wish that it can be obtained by a Moteo learner. But we love you all our learners, and best of the luck. I know the teachers have done all what they could. We have come to the end of everything. And thank you very much. Enjoy your paper on Wednesday. No makanjani, no learner must be left behind. All learners are going to pass. Thank you very much.